My phone pings with a text from Megan, my college roommate from 8 years ago. We haven't spoken in months, but her message stops my heart mid-beat. Olivia, I just saw your charity page for your disabled daughter. I had no idea. Why didn't you ever tell me you had a child? My coffee mug crashes to the kitchen floor. Brown liquid splashes across my bare ankles, but I barely register the heat. My fingers tremble so violently I can barely hold my phone, much less type a coherent response. Disabled daughter? I don't have children. I've never had children. I sink into a kitchen chair, lungs constricting as if concrete is hardening around my chest. 3 deep breaths barely provide enough oxygen to focus on the link Megan included in her follow-up text. The page loads. My profile picture smiles back at me, the professional headshot I use on LinkedIn, taken last spring. But the text beside it describes me as Olivia Hill, proud mother of Sophia, age 6, born with a rare spinal condition requiring extensive medical intervention. Black spots dance in my vision as I scroll through detailed updates about surgeries, physical therapy sessions, and medical equipment fundraisers, all for a child who doesn't exist. Then I see it. The donation information. The bank account number. It's the same one my mother opened when I was in high school, the family emergency fund she and my sister Rebecca still use. The account I've deposited into monthly for years, believing I was helping with legitimate crises. Just last month, I sent $350 for Rebecca's emergency root canal. Before that, $600 for Mom's car transmission repair. This can't be happening, I whisper to my empty apartment, but the evidence fills my screen, undeniable and overwhelming. How long has this been happening? Who believes I abandoned a disabled child? How many people have they fooled using my identity? A childhood memory surfaces without warning. I'm 7, sitting beside Mom on our faded couch while she holds my small hand in hers. Family always protects family, she says, her voice warm with conviction. No matter what happens in life, Livy, we stand together. The memory collides with the reality on my screen, detailed blog posts about my daughter's therapy progress, complete with heart-wrenching pleas for financial support. Posts dating back nearly 2 years. I race to the bathroom, barely making it before my breakfast resurfaces. After rinsing my mouth, I stare at my reflection, pale skin, dilated pupils, a woman on the edge of collapse. Not today. Not again. With shaking fingers, I call Megan back. I need to understand everything you know about this, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. When did you find this page? Have you donated? Has anyone else mentioned it to you? While Megan explains she discovered it through a mutual friend's Facebook share, I open my laptop and begin taking screenshots of everything. The donation history showing thousands of dollars. The fabricated medical updates. The manipulated photos that somehow show me with a small child who, upon closer inspection, looks suspiciously like my niece Madison, Rebecca's friend's daughter. Tears blur my vision, but I force myself to document methodically. File names, dates, URLs. Everything. Olivia, Megan says firmly after I've explained the situation. This is identity theft. These are federal crimes. You need to protect yourself first. But they're my family. I protest weakly, even as I continue archiving evidence. Family doesn't steal your identity to scam people, Megan counters. You need a lawyer, and possibly the police. My phone lights up with an incoming call. Mom's smiling face appears on the screen, the same weekly check-in call she makes every Tuesday. The timing feels suddenly sinister, rather than routine. For the first time in my adult life, I let her call go to voicemail. The small act of rebellion sends a shock through my system. This isn't just about money anymore. My reputation, my relationships, my entire identity has been weaponized against me, by the people who should have protected me most. Later that afternoon at work, I'm staring blankly at my computer screen in the break room when Jessica from accounting drops into the chair across from me. You look like you've seen a ghost, she says, pushing her stylish glasses higher on her nose. Everything okay? I've spoken with Jessica regularly for 3 years, but we've never moved beyond pleasant work conversations. Something about her direct gaze makes me hesitate, then surrender to the need to share this burden. I just found out someone created a charity fundraiser using my identity, I say, turning my phone toward her, claiming I have a disabled child who needs expensive medical treatments. Jessica's eyes widen as she scrolls through the page. This is elaborate. Who would do something like this? My mother and sister, I whisper, the words burning my throat. That's their bank account information. I don't have a child. This is my mother's doing. Instead of the awkward sympathy I expect, Jessica's expression shifts to analytical focus. We need to archive this before they realize, she says, pulling out her own phone. I worked in cybersecurity before switching to accounting. I can help you capture everything properly so it can't be disputed later. My chest tightens again, but differently, the pressure of unexpected support rather than crushing betrayal. You believe me? Just like that? Jessica looks up from her phone. My cousin went through something similar with his ex-wife. Family can hurt you the most, she says simply. But you're not facing this alone. I nod, new resolve strengthening my spine. I trusted them with everything. Now I need to know how deep this goes. The weight of betrayal still crushes my chest, but beneath it, something new stirs the first flicker of determination to reclaim what was stolen from me. My heart hammers against my ribs as Jessica's fingers fly across her keyboard. We've claimed the corner conference room at work, telling everyone we're working on a special compliance project. In a way, we are. Look at this, Jessica says, turning her laptop toward me. I found archived versions of the charity page going back almost 2 years. I clutch the edge of the conference table, steadying myself as I stare at the screen. The earliest version of the page shows my LinkedIn photo alongside a grainy image of a newborn in an incubator. The caption reads, Olivia and Sophia, day 1 of our journey together. That's not. My voice cracks. I've never even been in a hospital nursery. Jessica nods grimly. They've been running this scam for at least 23 months. And it gets worse. She clicks through a series of archived pages, showing increasingly elaborate fundraising campaigns, emergency surgeries, special wheelchairs, intensive therapy sessions. Each update includes medical terminology specific enough to sound legitimate, but vague enough to avoid verification. These are forged medical records. Jessica points to documents bearing hospital letterheads. The doctor's signatures look convincingly official, but the dates align perfectly with times I sent personal money to my family. May 12th last year, I whisper. Rebecca called saying Mom needed emergency dental work. I sent $680 that afternoon. Jessica clicks to the corresponding charity update. Sophia's emergency neurological consultation, $750 needed by tomorrow. My stomach churns as we uncover more photos, images of me, with a small child I recognize as Madison, my sister's friend's daughter. In one particularly convincing composite, they've digitally placed me beside a hospital bed, where a little girl sleeps, medical equipment surrounding her. The total fraudulent amount, Jessica says, pulling up a spreadsheet she's been compiling, exceeds $43,000 from over 200 different donors. $43,000, 200 people, 2 years of elaborate lies. I need air, I mumble, pushing back from the table. I stand at the window, pressing my forehead against the cool glass, trying to process the enormity of what my family has done. What kind of mother steals her daughter's identity to create a fake grandchild? I ask, the Seattle skyline spreading before me. Jessica remains quiet, giving me space as the pieces of my past rearrange themselves into a horrifying new pattern. Every emergency suddenly makes perfect sense. Rebecca's college tuition that never resulted in a degree, Mom's medical bills that never seemed to improve her condition, car repairs, home maintenance, utility shutoffs, a constant stream of crises requiring immediate financial intervention. I think of Mom's careful phrasing during each request. We don't like asking, but we have nowhere else to turn. The subtle guilt trips, the implied obligation. Rebecca's supportive text messages flash through my mind. Mom's so proud of you, but she'd never ask herself. You know how she island. They didn't see me as family, I say, turning back to Jessica. They saw me as their personal bank. The realization hardens something inside me. The initial shock and betrayal crystallize into something colder and more focused. I have choices they never expected me to make, I say, returning to the table with new resolve. Jessica smiles, recognizing the shift. I've got a friend who might be able to help us understand what we're dealing with. He's a lawyer who specializes in identity theft cases. 2 days later, I sit in Martin Cooper's downtown office, surrounded by evidence we've compiled. His expression grows increasingly grim as he reviews the documents. Your mother has approximately $26,000 in gambling debts, Martin says, looking up from public records he's accessed, most accumulated over the past 3 years. The information lands like a physical blow. Mom, gambling? She always criticized lottery players as throwing money away. And Rebecca is facing eviction, he continues. Plus about $18,000 in credit card debt and what appears to be several payday loans. I press my hands flat against my thighs to stop them from shaking. How did you find all this? Public records, Martin explains. Court filings, property liens, legal notices. Once you know where to look, the financial desperation becomes obvious. He pulls out another folder. I also found evidence they attempted similar schemes, using your cousin Thomas's identity last year, but he caught on quickly and threatened legal action. Thomas never mentioned this to me. Another betrayal to process later. There's more, Martin says carefully. Your mother's boyfriend of 3 years left her 6 months ago. According to the restraining order he filed, he discovered financial deceptions that made him fear for his security. The timeline aligns perfectly with when the charity page first appeared. They've lost almost every legitimate income source. Martin concludes. Your mother's part-time hospital administrative job is all that's keeping them afloat, plus whatever they extract from you and these fraudulent campaigns. He leans forward, eyes serious. Olivia, they're desperate enough to risk federal charges. That's how bad their financial situation island. I nod slowly, processing everything. What do we do next? You have options, Martin says. But first, let's get your friend Jessica involved again. Her technical expertise combined with my legal background gives us a strong starting position. That evening, my apartment transformed into an impromptu command center. Jessica arrives with her laptop and multiple external drives. I can track everything they've done online, she explains, setting up her equipment on my kitchen table. Every post, every donation, every update, we'll document it all. Martin spreads legal papers across my coffee table. This is wire fraud, identity theft, and multiple federal violations. The evidence is overwhelming. We spend hours organizing everything into a comprehensive timeline. Photos, screenshots, bank records, and public documents cover my walls like a crime investigation board from a television drama. We need roles, Jessica suggests. Martin handles legal, I handle technical, Olivia coordinates intelligence. I stand before the evidence board, studying the fragments of my shattered family relationship. The methodical organization provides a strange comfort, converting emotional devastation into actionable intelligence. We document everything before making any move, I say firmly. The tremor has left my voice. No emotional confrontations, no warnings. We gather every piece of evidence until the case is undeniable. As Martin and Jessica nod in agreement, I realize I've crossed a threshold. The daughter who would have forgiven anything to maintain family peace has been replaced by a woman who values truth more than comfortable lies. This isn't about revenge, I tell myself as I pin another fraudulent medical document to my wall. This is about justice for myself and for 200 strangers who opened their hearts and wallets to help a child who doesn't exist. My fingers hover over the keyboard, trembling slightly as I stare at the donation form. The name Margaret Wilson feels foreign as I type it into the donor field. Jessica leans over my shoulder, her steady presence grounding me as we execute our plan. Remember, we're documenting a pattern, she says, her voice low and reassuring. Every detail matters. I nod, taking a deep breath as I transfer $500 to my mother's fraudulent charity page. The money will be traceable proof of their ongoing scheme. The confirmation screen flashes. Thank you for supporting Sophia's recovery journey. Sophia, my non-existent daughter. Look at this. Jessica points to her laptop screen 2 days later. We're huddled in the corner of my living room, which has transformed into an evidence hub, with color-coded folders and timeline charts plastered across the walls. There's specific language in these updates suggesting hospital stays in March, June, and August, she explains, highlighting sections of text. But according to your calendar and work records, you were at a conference in Chicago during the March dates. They're getting sloppy, I mutter, scanning the fabricated timeline. They claimed I was at Children's Hospital for a week while I was actually presenting at a financial compliance seminar. The thank you email arrives precisely when Jessica predicted it would. The personalized note describes Sophia's courage during her recent physical therapy evaluation and includes a photo that makes my stomach lurch. That's from my appendectomy, I whisper, staring at the manipulated hospital image. My face, clearly photographed while I was recovering from surgery 2 years ago, has been carefully edited to appear as though I'm sitting beside a hospital bed. They must have gotten it from my phone when Mom helped organize my photos last Christmas. They've scheduled a major fundraiser for next week. Jessica points to a graphic announcement prominently displayed on the charity page. Goal: $25,000 for spinal surgery. 2. Pray. NTS Ka. NS. Goal. 2. NTS. Martin, reviewing our growing evidence file from his leather office chair, nods with grim satisfaction. This is exactly what prosecutors need: a clear pattern of deliberate, ongoing fraud. The personalized response to your test donation proves intent. The buzz of my phone interrupts us. Mom's smiling face appears on the screen, and for the first time in weeks, I don't hesitate before answering. Olivia, honey. Her voice carries that familiar warm tone that once meant safety. We need to talk about a special family announcement. My heart pounds against my ribs, but my voice remains steady. Sure, Mom. Tell me about my child. The one you've been raising. The silence that follows stretches so long I wonder if the call disconnected. When she finally speaks, her voice has shifted to something practiced, a performance I've heard countless times without recognizing it. We were trying to protect you from worry, she says. With your career just taking off, we didn't want to burden you. Put Rebecca on the call, I interrupt, surprising myself with my directness. I know she's there with you. Person. A rustling sound, then my sister's voice, immediately defensive. You never would have approved, but we needed help. Madison's medical bills were piling up, and Madison isn't my child, I say, each word precise and measured. She's your friend's daughter. You've been using my identity to commit fraud. It wasn't like that, Rebecca insists. We were just trying to... I've documented everything. I cut in, my voice surprisingly calm despite the molten anger flowing through my veins. Every fundraising page, every manipulated photo, every dollar collected. You have 24 hours to take down the page and return all donations. Olivia, my mother's voice wavers, a tremor I've never heard before. You don't understand what you're doing to this family. The word family ignites something within me. Family doesn't steal identity, Mom. Family doesn't lie for years. You made your choice. After extracting their agreement to remove the page, I end the call and sink onto my sofa. Martin and Jessica exchange glances, silently acknowledging the moment. You gave them a chance to mitigate damages. Martin confirms, closing his legal pad. That was legally sound and morally generous considering the circumstances. Jessica types rapidly on her laptop. I've archived the final version of the charity page. They can't erase the evidence. I stare at my hands, steady now despite everything. I've never spoken to my mother that way in my life. Later that evening, the three of us sit around a table at O'Malley's pub, an impromptu celebration dinner that feels both premature and necessary. The weight on my chest has lifted slightly, enough to allow me to eat something for the first time in days. To setting boundaries, Jessica raises her glass of amber ale. To consequences, Martin adds, clinking his water against our drinks. My phone pings with an email notification. A donor named Lawrence Greenberg is questioning why the charity page suddenly disappeared when his church group had planned to contribute to Sophia's surgery fund. Mr. Greenberg says he's confused because they already donated through Give Hope last month. I read aloud, my momentary relief evaporating. And his friend donated through CareChain. Multiple platforms, Jessica whispers. The implications immediately clear. They've been running this operation on multiple fronts. I set down my fork, appetite gone. The victory I'd allowed myself to feel crumbles as I scroll through my phone, searching for these other platforms. Taking down one page was never going to be enough. I realize, meeting Martin's steady gaze across the table. This needs to be stopped completely, not just one page at a time. Martin nods, already pulling out his phone to make notes. We need a comprehensive strategy. This is bigger than we initially thought. Jessica squeezes my shoulder. We've got this, Olivia. One step at a time. I look at these two people who've become my lifeline, a coworker and a friend's lawyer brother, now fighting alongside me against my own family. The irony isn't lost on me. One step at a time, I repeat, reaching for my water. The glass is cool and solid in my hand, something real to hold on to while everything else in my life seems to be built on lies. 2 days later, after gathering more evidence, Martin's law office transforms into our war room by 9 the next morning. The whiteboard that once displayed his firm's quarterly goals now maps an intricate web of fraudulent platforms my mother and sister created. 8 different websites, I say, my voice oddly steady as I add another pushpin to the board, each averaging $850 monthly in donations. Jessica turns from her laptop, tucking a strand of copper hair behind her ear. That's just what we can trace directly. There could be more we haven't found yet. I nod, studying the timeline we've constructed. 2 years of methodical deception unfold before me in a dry erase marker, color-coded by platform, donation amount, and specific medical claims. The magnitude would be impressive if it weren't so devastating. You're handling this remarkably well, Martin says, his tie loosened at the collar, sleeves rolled to the elbows. He passes me another stack of printouts, each page representing another person who believed they were helping my non-existent child. I can't think of them as family during this process. I reply, organizing the papers by date. If I do, I'll break down, and we need to be thorough. The words sound clinical, detached. They need to be. Each time emotion threatens to surface, I redirect it into meticulous documentation, categorizing evidence by type, date, severity. The FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center will need to be involved, Martin says, tapping his pen against the legal pad, where he's drafted our strategy. This crosses state lines, involves wire fraud, identity theft, federal jurisdiction. Jessica glances up from her screen. I've got the monitoring software installed on all the charity platforms. We'll know immediately if they make changes. I watch her fingers fly across the keyboard, cataloging donor information into a database she created overnight. Name, amount, date, platform, specific claim, referenced each entry, representing someone manipulated by my own blood. We need to understand their entire operation, I say, stepping back to survey our work. The transformation feels tangible from the woman who collapsed in her kitchen 3 days ago to someone capable of dismantling her mother's criminal enterprise. Hours blur as we build our case. Jessica documents Diana and Rebecca's online activities through public social media. Martin prepares a preliminary file for federal investigators, highlighting patterns that establish clear intent. The timeline is our strongest evidence, he says, pointing to where personal financial requests coincide perfectly with public fundraising spikes. Your sister asked for $600 for emergency dental work the same week they launched a $5,000 campaign for dental surgery for your supposed daughter. I completed my personal statement, 23 pages detailing years of financial manipulation. The words flow with surprising ease, as if they've been waiting for permission to exist. Jessica makes a small sound of triumph. The payment processor's fraud department is cooperating. They're preserving all transaction records. We work without confrontation, knowing Diana and Rebecca believe they've solved the problem by removing one page. Their ignorance becomes our advantage. You're building this case like you've done it before, Martin observes during a brief lunch break. I'm compliance trained, I remind him. Just never thought I'd use those skills against my own mother. The afternoon stretches into evening when Jessica's phone pings with an alert. Her expression shifts. They're getting nervous. Rebecca just searched how to completely delete fundraising history from her home IP. Good, Martin says. Let them worry. The office door opens unexpectedly at 5:30. I turn to find my mother standing in the doorway, pearl earrings catching the fluorescent light. Olivia, she says, her voice soft with practiced concern. We need to talk as a family. The timing is deliberate, catching me in a public setting where I must maintain composure while evidence sits vulnerable at home. Martin shifts subtly, blocking her view of the whiteboard. This isn't a good time, Mom. My voice remains steady despite my pounding heart. Diana's eyes fill with tears on cue. Several of Martin's colleagues glance our way, sympathy already forming on their faces for the distressed older woman. Your sister could lose everything if you proceed with this misunderstanding, she says, voice breaking perfectly. Her apartment, her job when this becomes public. I notice how she positions herself for maximum visibility from the hallway, ensuring witnesses to her performance. There are things about our family history I've protected you from, she continues, her voice dropping to a meaningful whisper. Things that would be difficult for everyone if they came to light. The threat hangs between us. An unfamiliar clarity washes over me as I recognize the tactic, the same one she's used since my childhood. Create fear, imply consequences, extract compliance. I need to finish up here, I say simply. We can talk another time. Something flashes behind her eyes. Frustration. Perhaps fear. She's not accustomed to this version of her daughter, the one who doesn't immediately bend. After she leaves, Jessica touches my arm. You okay? I straighten the papers on Martin's desk, organizing them with deliberate precision. They're still trying to manipulate me, but now I recognize the tactics. Martin returns from escorting Diana out of the building. That visit tells us something important. I nod, a strange calm settling over me. Their desperation proves we're on the right track. The next day, the FBI field office smells like coffee and printer toner. Agent Wilson spreads our evidence across a conference table, while Martin arranges color-coded folders beside him. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows under everyone's eyes, emphasizing the gravity of what we're building. We've accepted your case referral, Miss Hill. Agent Wilson says, his baritone voice steady and reassuring. He's older than I expected, with salt and pepper hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. The evidence shows clear patterns of wire fraud, identity theft, and potential HIPAA violations. My stomach knots as I watch him scan the photographs of my daughter, images of Madison with my face carefully edited into the frame. The manipulation is obvious now that I know to look for it, but convincing enough to fool distant acquaintances and strangers. All evidence was carefully obtained and scanned. 237 individual donors were found. Jessica says, placing a thumb drive on the table. I've compiled everything with authentication certificates, timestamps, IP addresses, platform data. It's all there. Martin nods approvingly. I've prepared legal hold letters for all 8 fundraising platforms. We'll serve them simultaneously to prevent deletion of evidence. Martin nods approvingly to Lav. I slide my notarized affidavit across the table. The words blur slightly as I push it forward. I, Olivia Hill, have never given birth to, nor adopted any children. Such a simple statement that shouldn't need formal documentation. Yet here we are. This is one of the most thorough case files I've seen from civilian complainants. Agent Wilson remarks, flipping through my sworn statement. But we need to move quickly but methodically. When we act, they'll know immediately. What should I tell people when this becomes public? My voice sounds smaller than I intended. The truth. He responds simply. Practice a composed response. Something straightforward like, my identity was stolen for fraudulent purposes. The matter is under investigation. I appreciate your understanding during this difficult time. Ask Halaria. I repeat the words silently, mentally rehearsing for the inevitable questions from neighbors, co-workers, acquaintances. The reality of what's coming settles heavier on my shoulders. My phone vibrates against the table. Jessica glances at it before I can. It's from Rebecca, she says quietly. I turn the phone to see the screen. My sister's latest video plays without sound, tears streaming down her face as she gestures desperately toward medical charts I can't read from this distance. The fundraising bar at the bottom shows a goal of $130,000. Emergency surgery needed within 48 hours. I read aloud, the words bitter on my tongue. Jessica takes my phone, her fingers flying across the screen. These are actual medical records. Look at the letterhead. Martin leans forward. Where did they get legitimate medical documents with your name? Diana works in hospital administration. I answer, the pieces clicking together. She has access to records. Agent Wilson's expression darkens. That's a serious HIPAA violation on top of everything else. Jessica's laptop pings with an alert. They're researching you, Olivia. Rebecca just searched. How to tell if someone is gathering evidence against you. She turns the screen so we can all see. They know we're building a case. My throat tightens as the donation counter on Rebecca's fundraiser ticks upward. $2,450, $3,200, $4,875. Real people giving real money for a surgery that will never happen. Every day, we wait. More people are being defrauded, I whisper, watching the numbers climb. Agent Wilson shakes his head firmly. We need to catch them accepting and using these specific funds. That will strengthen our case considerably. Patience now means justice later. The next morning, we reconvene with renewed purpose. Jessica has set up alerts for any transaction from the donation accounts. Martin confirms his legal team stands ready with emergency injunctions for all platforms. Surveillance authorization came through overnight. Agent Wilson announces, sliding a document across the table. We're monitoring Diana and Rebecca's accounts for any withdrawal activity. I run my finger along the edge of the paper, feeling the slight texture of the official FBI letterhead. All our evidence is secured? Multiple locations, full chain of custody documentation, Jessica confirms. Even if they somehow got to one set, we have backups. Agent Wilson checks his watch. We move tomorrow morning. Everything is in place. Tomorrow. The word settles in my chest like a stone. I've spent years sending money to help my family through one crisis after another. Tomorrow, I'll help create a crisis they never expected. After tomorrow, nothing will ever be the same, I say quietly. Martin squeezes my shoulder gently. You're doing the right thing, Olivia. This isn't about revenge. It's about justice. For you and for hundreds of people they've deceived. I nod, feeling an unexpected clarity wash through me. The fear remains, but underneath it runs something stronger. A current of resolve that's been building since that first shocking text message. Tomorrow, the false narrative ends. Tomorrow, the truth begins. The next morning, my phone vibrates against the kitchen counter, Agent Wilson's name flashing on the screen. I answer with steady hands, a stark contrast to the trembling fingers that could barely hold my phone when this nightmare began. Olivia, we have a situation. Diana and Rebecca withdrew $18,700 from the donation account this morning. We couldn't stop it in time. The carefully constructed calm I've maintained these past weeks threatens to crack. How is that possible? I thought we had monitoring in place. They moved faster than anticipated. Used an emergency withdrawal clause in the account agreement. His voice tightens with professional frustration. But this gives us something concrete: wire transfer records, proving they accessed fraudulently obtained funds. I sink into a kitchen chair, the same one I collapsed into when I first discovered their betrayal. What's our next step? Proofly body was forecast. Before Wilson can answer, my laptop pings with an alert. Jessica programmed new activity on the fundraising platforms. My heart plummets as I open the notification. Rebecca's tear-streaked face fills the screen. Her voice trembles as she speaks directly to the camera. We need your help more than ever. Our daughter, Sophia's mother, my sister, is experiencing a severe mental health crisis. She's denying her own child exists. Bile rises in my throat as the video continues, showing a document on hospital letterhead, a psychological evaluation with my name at the top, diagnosing me with delusional disorder with paranoid features. She's escalating, I whisper, more to myself than Wilson, taking it to another level entirely. Stay on the line, Wilson says. I'm conferring with Martin. While we wait, I scroll through comments beneath the video. Dozens of supporters offered prayers, expressing outrage at the unstable mother who would abandon her child. A local church has organized a prayer vigil for tomorrow evening. Martin joins the call, his voice tight with controlled anger. I just saw the new fundraiser. Legal protection from an unstable mother. They're soliciting funds specifically to fight you now. Diana called your employer this morning, Wilson adds, claimed you're having a psychotic break. My stomach turns to ice. My job. Your HR department referred her to legal, Martin interjects. I've already spoken with them. They're aware of the investigation. I close my eyes, picturing the community members at the prayer vigil, imagining the whispers. Poor little Sophia. How could a mother deny her own child? She called me directly afterward, Wilson continues. Said, and I quote, "If you pursue this, everyone will believe you abandoned your sick child." My fingers curl into fists. This calculated cruelty shouldn't surprise me anymore, yet somehow it still does. They're desperate. Martin says, "This is good for our case, even if it feels terrible right now." I stare at Rebecca's performance on my screen, the perfect mixture of distress and determination. My sister, the actress I never knew she was. We need to move now, I say, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Before they destroy what's left of my reputation. Wilson doesn't hesitate. I'm expediting the arrest warrants based on the wire transfer evidence. We have enough. Later that morning, they came to my apartment. My living room has transformed into a war room over the past few days. Evidence boards line the walls. Timelines stretch across my dining table. In the corner, Jessica's laptop whirs as she compiles the final technical evidence package. I've submitted the emergency injunctions to all platforms. Martin reports, papers shuffling in the background. We should have them offline within hours. Jessica looks up from her computer. I've prepared the full technical package for media outlets, everything authenticated and verified. They won't be able to dispute a single byte. I slide a thick envelope across the table to Wilson, my notarized medical records, definitively proving I've never given birth, never undergone any procedure even remotely related to pregnancy or childbirth. The coordinated machinery we've built rumbles into motion. 3 months ago, I was a woman paralyzed by family loyalty. Now I'm orchestrating a response that feels almost military in its precision. Diana accessed those medical records through her hospital job, Jessica confirms, pointing to evidence on her screen. HR just confirmed the unauthorized access. My phone lights up with a notification from the payment processor. Funds frozen. I report to the room. $41,235 secured. The sudden silence feels weighted with significance. For the first time, I realize how completely I've transformed. The woman who once sent money without question whenever her family called now methodically dismantles their fraud scheme despite the personal cost. Federal prosecutors have accepted the case, Wilson announces, ending a call. Warrants are being issued for wire fraud, identity theft, and medical record falsification. Jessica's laptop pings repeatedly. Rebecca's trying to delete accounts, she says, fingers flying across the keyboard. Too late. Everything's archived. My phone rings, Diana's smiling face appearing on the screen for the first time in weeks. I answer the speaker. Livy. Her voice breaks with theatrical precision. You're destroying this family. Please stop this before it's too late. It was too late the moment you stole my identity, I replied, surprised by the calm in my voice. It was too late the first time you lied to people using my name. We're family, she whispers. What happened to family protects family? The question that would have devastated me months ago now strengthens my resolve. That's exactly what I'm doing. Protecting myself from you. I end the call as Wilson receives a text. Channel 4, News, is investigating. They received our evidence package. There's no stopping this now, Wilson says, gathering his papers. The raid is scheduled for 7 a.m. tomorrow. After everyone leaves, I sit alone in my apartment, surrounded by the evidence of betrayal. On my coffee table sits a photo album I haven't opened in years. Inside, family pictures from before the fraud, Diana teaching me to ride a bike, Rebecca and me building sandcastles at the beach. A soft knock at the door announces Jessica's return. Thought you might want company tonight, she says, holding up a bag of takeout. Tomorrow changes everything. We eat in comfortable silence until Martin calls with final instructions. Remember, he says gently, you didn't cause this. You're just ending it. Comment. I stare out my window at the darkening sky, the tension building like a gathering storm. Tomorrow, the world will know the truth. Tomorrow, justice replaces blind loyalty. Tomorrow, I will reclaim my name. But tonight, I sit in the eye of the hurricane, surprisingly calm as I wait for the inevitable dawn. The next day, federal agents swarm Diana's craftsman-style house at 6:13 a.m. I watch from Agent Wilson's unmarked sedan, my stomach a tight knot of anticipation. Morning sunlight glints off the badges as officers position themselves at every exit. You don't have to witness this, Agent Wilson says, his voice gentle but firm. We can wait at the field office. I need to see it, I reply, my voice steadier than I expected. After everything they've done, I need to know it's real. The raid unfolds with military precision. Diana emerges in her floral bathrobe, her confusion transforming to indignation as an agent reads her rights. When the handcuffs click around her wrists, something breaks loose inside me, a dam holding back months of betrayal and rage. This is a mistake, Diana shouts, her voice carrying across the neighborhood. Several neighbors peer from windows and porches. My daughter is confused. Olivia doesn't understand what she's doing. Even now, she's performing, crafting a narrative where I'm the villain. My fingers dig into my palms so hard they leave half-moon indentations. Agent Wilson's radio crackles. Second location secured. Suspect attempting to delete files from multiple devices. Rebecca, I whisper. The technical mind behind their operation, caught red-handed. A local news van pulls up, someone tipped them off. A reporter clutches a microphone while her cameraman captures Diana being guided toward a government SUV. Please. Diana sobs toward the camera, her face a masterpiece of maternal anguish. This is all a misunderstanding. I was only trying to help my granddaughter. My poor Olivia is having another episode. My throat constricts. Even in custody, she's manipulating, planting seeds of doubt about my sanity. The strategic facade I've maintained for months threatens to crumble. She's good, Agent Wilson observes. Been doing this a long time, hasn't she? My whole life. The words emerge like gravel. Later that morning, I sit in a conference room at the FBI field office, watching the initial hearing via secure video feed. The evidence we've meticulously gathered for months unfolds in devastating clarity. Forged medical documents with Diana's fingerprints, Rebecca's IP addresses linked to the fraudulent websites, bank records showing systematic theft. Rebecca enters the courtroom first, shoulders hunched. When she spots the prosecutor's evidence table, stacked with financial records and printed screenshots, her strategy shifts instantly. It was Mom's idea. She blurts before her attorney can stop her. I just helped with the computer stuff. She said Olivia would never know. The judge, a silver-haired woman with penetrating eyes, studies Rebecca over her reading glasses. Miss Hill, please refrain from statements until properly addressed by the court. Diana enters next, her courthouse appearance carefully crafted conservative dress, minimal makeup, hair pulled back in a modest bun, the grieving grandmother persona perfected. But when she sees me watching through the video feed, her mask slips for just an instant. Hatred flashes across her features, quickly replaced by wounded innocence. Your Honor, the prosecutor begins, the evidence before you represents one of the most calculated fraud schemes I've encountered in 15 years of practice. These defendants exploited a family member's identity to create an elaborate fiction about a disabled child who does not exist. The judge reviews the evidence summary, her expression growing increasingly severe. The premeditation here is extraordinary. Multiple platforms, forged medical records, manipulated photographs, all using the identity of the defendant's own daughter and sister. When the hearing concludes, the judge denies bail for both Diana and Rebecca, citing flight risk and evidence of active attempts to destroy records. As guards prepare to escort them out, Diana turns toward the camera. She believes I'm behind. How could you do this to your own mother? She calls out, voice breaking perfectly on the final word. A month of rehearsed responses abandons me. But as I meet her gaze through the monitor, something shifts inside me like tectonic plates finding a new alignment. I've been asking myself the same question about you for months. I reply, knowing she can hear me through the courtroom audio feed. The power balance between us reverses completely in that moment. For the first time in my life, I'm not the one carrying shame. Outside the courthouse, I'm surprised to find Pastor Matthews waiting, his usual confident posture replaced by genuine contrition. Olivia, he begins, removing his glasses. The prayer vigil we organized. I should have verified the story before taking sides. Many of us owe you an apology. More community members approach throughout the day. The bank teller who processed donations, a teacher who organized a school fundraiser, the owner of the cafe who displayed collection jars. Each interaction reinforces what Agent Wilson told me earlier. Without your methodical documentation, this would have been impossible to prove. 3 days later, Rebecca accepts a plea deal in exchange for testifying against Diana. Her formal confession confirms every element of our case, from the initial creation of the fake charity page to the methodical escalation of medical claims. Local news coverage shifts dramatically. Headlines change from family dispute turns legal to sophisticated fraud ring exploited community compassion. Diana's hospital terminates her employment after confirming she accessed confidential records to create the fraudulent medical documents. The court freezes all personal assets connected to the scheme. My lawyer Martin walks me through the financial recovery process while Jessica continues helping restore my digital identity, removing traces of the fraudulent story from search results and social platforms. The judge wants your victim impact statement tomorrow, Martin reminds me as we leave the courthouse. Take your time with it. This is your opportunity to be heard. That night, I sit at my kitchen table, the same spot where I first discovered the fraud, and write from the deepest part of myself. Not about the money, but about something far more valuable. When I stand before the judge the next morning, Diana and Rebecca seated at the defense table, my voice carries clearly through the courtroom. They didn't just steal money, I say, the paper with my prepared statement untouched in my hands. They stole trust. They weaponized the most fundamental relationship in human experience, family, and turned it into a tool for exploitation. They taught me that the people who should protect you most might actually be causing the most harm. The judge nods, her attention unwavering. But they also taught me something they never intended. I continue. That family isn't determined by blood or shared history. It's built on honesty, respect, and mutual support. I found that family in the people who helped me stop this fraud, in my coworker, who stayed up nights, preserving evidence, in my friend who navigated the legal system with me, in Agent Wilson, who believed me when I could barely believe myself. Diana stares at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. 1 week later, we gather for the final sentencing. The courtroom is packed with victims, community members, and media. The evidence is so overwhelming that both Diana and Rebecca have entered guilty pleas to avoid trial. The court has determined that the defendants defrauded 237 individuals of a total amount of $168,732 over a 3-year period. The judge announces. Diana Hill is sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Rebecca Hill is sentenced to 3 years. Full restitution to all identified victims is ordered, plus legal costs incurred by Olivia Hill. The judge adds permanent restraining orders preventing either from contacting me, directly or indirectly, upon their release. Agent Wilson approaches me afterward. We're using your case as a precedent for family identity fraud prosecutions, he explains. You've created a roadmap for others to follow. Throughout the day, victims approach to thank me, elderly couples who donated Social Security money, parents who contributed children's college funds, community groups who organized fundraisers. Their gratitude is uncomfortable but healing. Martin guides me through establishing a victim restitution fund from the seized assets, while Jessica continues scrubbing the last digital remnants of the fraudulent story from the internet. As we exit the courthouse, reporters gather on the steps. The same camera that captured Diana's performance now points at me. The reporter asks how it feels to see justice served. I pause, considering my words carefully. Family is about truth and trust, I say finally. When those are gone, it's just DNA. The weight that has pressed against my chest for months finally begins to lift as I walk down the courthouse steps. The sun feels warmer on my face than it has in a very long time. A week later, the morning sunlight streams through my kitchen window, casting a golden glow across the newspaper on my counter. My own face looks back at me from the local section, beneath the headline. Daughter exposes family fraud ring. The reporter captured a moment of quiet dignity rather than triumph, exactly what I'd hoped for. They did a good job with the interview, Jessica says, sliding onto a bar stool with her coffee mug. She's been staying over occasionally since the sentencing, her friendship a steadying force I never expected to find in the aftermath of betrayal. Agent Wilson called this morning. I tell her, folding the paper. Diana and Rebecca arrived at their respective facilities yesterday, different states, different security levels. Jessica nods, understanding the complexity beneath my neutral tone. How does that feel? I pause, searching for the truth beneath layers of conflicting emotions. Like the knot in my chest is finally loosening. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. My phone buzzes with an email notification, my boss approving additional paid leave and covering therapy sessions through our employee assistance program. The message ends with a simple line that brings unexpected tears to my eyes. Take the time you need. Later that afternoon, my cousin Michelle calls. We haven't spoken since the story broke nationally. I should have seen it, she says, voice thick with regret. All those times Aunt Diana showed photos of you with Madison at family gatherings, calling her your daughter. I never questioned it. Other family members reach out throughout the week, some apologetic, others defensive of Diana despite the evidence. Each conversation feels like sorting through emotional debris after a storm, deciding what to keep and what to discard. Martin stops by with documents confirming all fraudulent medical records have been purged from healthcare systems. We're making sure this can't follow you, he explains, his usual legal formality softened by genuine concern. On Friday, Agent Wilson presents me with a small plaque, an FBI Citizen Cooperation Commendation. Your case is becoming a template for family fraud investigations, he explains. What you did took extraordinary courage. I place the plaque on my bookshelf, not as a trophy but as a reminder of how far I've come. 6 months later, I stood at a podium facing 200 compliance professionals at the Northwest Financial Fraud Prevention Conference. My hands no longer tremble when I speak publicly. My voice carries to the back of the room without wavering. Family fraud succeeds because we're conditioned to protect the people who hurt us. I explain, making eye contact with audience members. We mistake loyalty for love and obligation for connection. The contrast with my former self feels almost physical. The woman who once collapsed in her kitchen, unable to process betrayal, now fields questions about establishing boundaries and recognizing manipulation with calm authority. My promotion to the compliance team came with both a raise and purpose. My new apartment in Belltown offers sweeping views of Elliott Bay, a daily reminder of expansiveness after years of constriction. Once a month, I volunteer at Children's Hospital, reading to kids during their treatment sessions, helping real families in genuine need. As I explained to Jessica when she asked why I chose this particular service, I've learned that family is earned, not just born. I told my therapist during our now monthly check-in. The relationships I've built since the trial have taught me what healthy connection actually feels like. When Agent Wilson invites me to consult with their fraud prevention task force, I recognize it as the final transformation, personal pain becoming public service. On the one-year anniversary of Megan's text message that started everything, I received a letter from Elaine Peterson in Portland. Her elderly father was systematically defrauded by his nephew, using similar tactics to what Diana employed. We met at a quiet cafe the following weekend. Her hands twist nervously around her coffee cup, reminding me of myself 12 months earlier. I don't know where to start, she admits, voice breaking. The evidence is overwhelming, but he's family. I cover her hand with mine, steady and sure. Let's begin with protecting your father, I say, opening my laptop to show her the resources and support strategies I've compiled. The contrast between my panic a year ago and my calm guidance now feels like watching two different women. 2 days later, a letter arrives from the Federal Correctional Facility housing Diana. Her handwriting, once so familiar on birthday cards and permission slips, now looks like it belongs to a stranger. I hope someday you can find it in your heart to forgive me, she writes. My response is brief but honest. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. I wish you healing, but our relationship requires boundaries, not bitterness. With Agent Wilson's support, I established the Family Fraud Education Initiative. 3 local banks adopt verification procedures based directly on my case study. By summer, we've helped 3 families identify and stop fraudulent schemes before major financial damage occurred. At the From Victim to Advocate ceremony hosted by the State Attorney General's office, I accepted a community service award with genuine gratitude rather than embarrassment. The family we choose through love and honesty is stronger than the family we're given by chance. I tell the audience, trust must be earned, not demanded, and the truth, even when painful, builds stronger foundations than comfortable lies ever could. Later that evening, alone in my apartment, I studied an old family photo I kept in my desk drawer. Diana, Rebecca, and me at a lakeside picnic 15 years ago, all smiling for the camera while unspoken tensions swirled beneath the surface. I return it to the drawer without regret or anger, just a quiet understanding. Sometimes, I whisper to the empty room, the greatest act of love is letting go of those who refuse to love you honestly. What would you have done if you discovered your family had been using your identity this way? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.